Hey everybody, Hoople's Cat. I'm just going to do what I do about every month or so. I take some dry goods and I bag them up and put them in storage and forget about them. Hope I never have to use them. But I just thought I'd show you what I would typically gather over 2 or 3 shopping trips and sorry, still got a flu, and bag with the intention for it to be in outdoor storage or buried storage, which would experience about 80 to 90 degrees centigrade change of temperature over the year, and you might find this a little interesting. There you go. So, not the best thing to store, whole wheat flour, but I do store it, and I store it in small, and I leave it in these bags, which are basically Mylar bags anyway. So I don't re-Mylar bags, but what I do is I actually will put an extra Mylar bag around this sort of a thing. Whole wheat goes off quite quickly, though it is the best nutritional type grain you can get. I am looking at wheat berries, but for now I'm prepared to store this in small quantities and have the risk of it going rancid on me and not being used. Worst case, I'd make it into dough and use it for bake. I think this stuff will be here long after I die. I can't recommend basic oats enough. One of the major staples. We'll probably be having that for breakfast and dinner a lot of the times in Essex. Quinoa. Really like storing this, mostly because you can actually sprout this and you can also grow this. The actual germination rate would be pretty poor. But again, it's sealed in Mylar bags, so I just Mylar bag around it. These are actually unpack and put directly into Mylar. I think we all have this in some form or other. Boreal is kind of an organic flour, white flour. This will last for a long, long time. Don't forget to store yeast as well. And one of the other things I do, I'll show you when I actually do one of these, is I put a surprise additive into some of the packets, which you might want to think about, because if you're ever in the position of having to use these for real, you'd be very, very glad you listened to Hoople's Cat and came up with this little trick. Okay. Now, when I take them out of the packets and write more detail on the bag, I'm not going to rely on my memory or whoever uses this to know what they're doing with it. So oats is good, cheap, great source of a lot of different things, and nutrition. One cannot live by oats alone, but Scotland would argue that one. Now, what you want to do when you do this is you don't want to overstuff the bag. Roughly when the bag is about there, I do use oxygen absorbers, and I just shove it in. There's arguments about not using oxygen absorbers. They will increase your cost quite a bit. For me, I kind of like them. I like the concept. Then I pull the sides a little bit, try and get some more space. Because I actually want to try and cut my costs down. But the key thing with these is to take your time and leave sufficient air gap. The reason you want to leave an air gap is because you don't actually want to be heating the product itself. Okay? So because of this, what I do with this is I'm really working on settling. Settling is removing air. Once I get that, curling tongs, get a side done. Quick and dirty. Then go to the other side. Again, trying to make it settle, trying to push the air. And as it progresses, you can see you get to a point where you literally are squeezing pretty much all the air out of the bag. Now I start on the inside, I start down and move up. And I do this 2 or 3 times on each bag. Flour's great, and I think flour really is something I need to look at differently. I've seen it online where you actually pre-bag the flour, and I think that's a good way of doing it. But you'll see me not doing that today because I haven't got to it yet. So there you go. Bag of oats. Okay, so as ever, let your imagination fly on this. Oatmeal. Small bottle of maple cream. Fill up, seal. Let's have fun and nice cuisine when the world ends. Now you've all seen these gigantic mylar bags. You know, you stuff them full of food, put them inside a 5-gallon bucket, and you've got your mylar bag, a few oxygen absorbers, and you're laughing. The problem with this, as other people have pointed out, is true. If you actually open this, it's then going to start going off. So in grid down, you're going to have to eat a huge amount of the food in bad conditions, assuming no electricity and high humidity, etc., and heat. So it's always worth taking the time and bagging small bags. For example, that's what we're doing with the flour. So why, Hoopers, why do you have these big bags? If I am going to bury tools and other materials like soap and other materials, I find putting them inside one of these, forcing as much air out as possible, and yes, using oxygen absorbers and then sealing them, is a really good way of me mentally being hopeful that if nobody finds it, I will actually have the material to be used when I dig it up. The other one use for these would be things like once you get to a certain point with your food storage and you're just buying, say you're buying this once a week or once a month. This is 11.34 kilograms, which is 25 pounds of flour. It might as well just go in here, because in grid down, if I ever go from using my quinoa and my aramat to using this sort of a supply, I'm probably going to use it. I'm probably going to use it in a week or two, depending on how many people I'm feeding. So again, how many people are in the group, how often are you going to use the food, it may or may not be worth it. But these bags are paper. So if you have a paper bag, do not store it in the paper bag. Keep it in the original unopened bag if you can. But even if you do that, make sure you've got a mylar bag that fits around it to give you added protection. So like I said, the quinoa just goes into a small mylar bag without this bag being opened at all, just to give you an extra level of protection. I can't recommend this enough. If you are going to use mylar bags or you're not going to use mylar bags, use Sharpie's permanent ink and actually mark what's in there and the date. What I do for rice and flour is, even though it's 2 to 1, I actually usually write 2 to 1 water. So if I have to have water, I usually add it on. But this one I haven't, because it's written on the packet itself. Having done that, when it's pre-bagged and I'm not opening the bag, I'm not too fussed about squeezing the air out. But I use Leslie's curling tongs, which really irritates her. And you just start at one end. So I don't use vacuum sealing. I can see the point to it. I'm not sure if I'll ever go there. It's quite expensive, and I don't think the extra time in is really worth the effort. For me, I wanted to make it cheap and convenient. I want to spend my money on the food and on the storage of the food, rather than trying to expand the shelf life dramatically. Food for me as storage is a frequent purchase, so I'm not going to worry too much about longevity. If I can get 5 years or 10 years, I'm happy. So that's the quinoa done. So I promised a little wrinkle on something that I do, which I haven't actually seen other people do in this format. A lot of products that we store, for example white rice, which I'm not actually storing today. I have basmati in the freezer. I usually have something in the freezer. I like to freeze for about a week. You can do it for 2 days. That helps get rid of the eggs and the weevils. So I like to freeze and then my white rice. So I've got my white rice in here, 25 pounds of it. And it's in the big bag because I have lots of little bags of white flour flowing around. And it's bulk up supplies because all of the food that I showed at the beginning of this video calculates out to be one person with 5,000 calories for 2,000 calories for about 50 days. So 2 of us, it's going to last 25 days. Pretty horrible diet, but at least in terms of the calorie count, that's what I'm looking to get towards, and I hopefully would be supplanting that and adding other stuff into it and making it last longer. So you don't need a lot of bulk to get a lot of calories, but you do need to be thinking about how you're going to eat this stuff. And a lot of people store salt, and everybody should. A lot of people store sugar, and I do, even though I don't use white sugar usually. But I definitely see the additive value to add it to flour and grit down. But what about salt? Yeah, what about pepper? Maybe. What about other things like paprika? Garlic salt. Do you store these? Do you stock them? What do you do with them? Well, personally, I like to keep it simple. I believe keeping things simple if you can. So, Mylar bag, inside the original bag if you can. Label it and date it so you can use the older stock first in grid down and then move backwards in time to the newer stock. Remember, the stuff at the back of the shelves gets eaten first, not the stuff at the front. If you open up the old stuff and it's already expired, see if you can make another use for it. Move to the next one and the next one and the next one. So you want to be eating the older stored stuff first in grid down and the newest stuff last. What I do, and it's really kind of, I've never seen this. Maybe I'm missing out. If I missed out, let me know. I may have seen somebody's video and I can't remember. I've seen a lot of videos. What I do is I randomly buy sealed packets, and they can be paper packets or these cases plastic packets, of herbs and spices. You can have paprika bread, garlic, naan. You can do a heck of a lot with this. I'll also put in the sealed aluminium packets of yeast as well, in with my flour. So yeah, I'm not root around in it, but I have no problems with that. So let me know below whether you think that's a good way of storing long-term food that you're actually going to eat and enjoy and can have some variety of, even though it's pretty bland, pretty white diet. You would be calculating out, supplementing stuff with tinned foods. You'd be harvesting, trapping, growing, sprouting. So I'd be doing all this stuff on top of using stored supplies. The bulk stored supplies is what I will be going to in grid down. I'm talking about a long-term grid down, not a nice storm, right? I just use my pantry for that. But in a long-term grid down, what I'm going to do is I have lots of tins and other stuff that I will rotate and use as additives to rice and pasta and flour and all the rest of it. So yeah, that's about it from me. I'm not going to show you the rest of this because it gets pretty boring. Toodaloo.